What's going on? Welcome back to the channel. So today we're going to talk to you about the top 5 short squeeze stocks that you need to add to your watch list going into this upcoming week. So I'm going to go over all the things that you need to know, but first make sure to hit that thumbs up, and with that, let's get right to it. So starting off with stock number 5, not in any particular order, you have ticker NUKK. I was actually pleasantly surprised to see this. It kind of fell off my radar for a while. It was on my squeeze list way back in like 2024, did do fairly well back then. But since then, it kind of pulled back a little bit. Even, for instance, last Friday, it did close 18% in the red. Over the last 1 year, still up 377%. And then over the last 1 month, up 101% alone. So it is starting to gain some pretty good traction. If you do not know what they do, this is it. So application software, 15 employees, based out of good old NYC, founded in 2013. But right now, 29.66% of the free float is being shorted. Works out to be 1.28 million shares overall being shorted. Cost to borrow average sitting at 33.63. That's an annual rate, not a daily rate. So not the highest, but still it's a fair amount. Short score, higher the number, the higher likelihood of a squeeze happening, is sitting at 78.32. So since looks like mid-August, short interest was roughly around 6%. Since then, they have doubled, tripled, quadrupled down. So it did recently have a high pretty much in October the 13th, so 1 week ago, of 44%. So shorts are very active with this stock. But with potentially going into this upcoming week, a lot of big companies unveiling their earnings, we could be really having a nice breakout in the broader market, thus pushing this stock and many others I'm going to talk about really high and putting shorts in a little bit more of a bind. So going into this upcoming week though, there is a measly 150,000 shares available to be shorted. Reason why I bring that up is if you do get some stocks with limited supply, you could see some buying from big players such as BlackRock, Vanguard, Jane Street are some ones that do like to buy stocks just to lend out. So of course that would add a lot of buying pressure. So add this stock to your watch list. Moving on to the next one, it is very popular. Hasn't done all that great, but Beyond Meat. Just on Friday alone, went up 24%. Over the last 1 year, though, down 89.8%. So they haven't really been doing that well, but over the last 5 days, it's down 27.83%. Despite that, though, everyone is calling for this to be a squeeze. So normally what I like to have as far as on my list is stocks that have good pre-existing momentum as well as shorts just being very overextended. So this one I did have to manually add only because it doesn't fit that criteria, but it's even popping up on Reddit, so I feel like this is going to be what a lot of retail does focus on in the next little bit. So that could in among itself prompt a squeeze. It is rather unfortunate. I actually traded this way back in the day, back in like when it was like $140, which is crazy to think that it's down to kind of 65 cents now. But for whatever reason, if you do not know what they do, this is it. So packaged foods and meats, 754 employees based out of good old the States, but 76.95% of the free floats being shorted, works to be 48.7 million shares overall being shorted. So even zooming back out to where it was at these levels, like 100 plus, back then short interest was only like, I don't know, 23%. So now we are at like record high levels. So this is why a lot of people think that this is a squeeze play. And honestly, it could, right? DTC is 3.98 days. That does show that shorts are very overextended. So that factors the average volume for Beyond Meat in comparison to number of shares being shorted. Short score is 86.7, so very high stuff for that. So at the end of the day, this one definitely does need to be added to your watch list. Through IBKR, there's about 2.6 million shares available to be shorted. And most likely, because of that being somewhat on the low end-ish, somewhat, this is probably why shorts did return 3.28 million on Friday just to free up some room. But cost to borrow is fairly high, so even through IBKR, 94.5%. So you could be definitely seeing some buying going into this upcoming week just for the purposes of lending out stock. So add this one to your watch list. Moving on, QS. So this one, they are having their earnings coming up. It is slated for right now the 22nd after the market does close. And so negative 20 cents for the earnings per share is the current estimate. Over the last 90 days, 2 positive and 2 negative revisions to the earnings per share. So again, that could in among itself prompt a squeeze. Currently sitting at 15.36 over the last 1 year. It is up 187.64%. And then over the last 1 month, up 50.4%. A lot of good information here on a side note, such as 8.69 billion being the market cap and so forth. If you don't know what they do, this is it. Right down here. So automotive parts and equipment, 800 employees, founded in 2010, but 11.26% of the free floats being shorted, works out to be 48.5 million shares overall being shorted. DTC sitting at 1.08 days, so it does signal that shorts are rather overextended, despite shorts returning a lot. So roughly looks like July, second, third week of July, short interest was about 17.6%. And since then, they've kind of returned quite a lot. So that obviously has been really helping the stock price really move higher because, of course, by shorts returning, that does add buying pressure. But still, given the circumstances and their upcoming earnings, you still have 48.5 million shares overall being shorted. And so even looking at shares on loan being at 54.8, that is very close to that 48. So at the end of the day, you can definitely see a little bit of a squeeze if they hit a lot of their key metrics and give good future guidance. Short score 57.2, and then through IBKR it does indicate about 7.7 million shares. Cost to borrow average is kind of low, so that's 0.25, so most likely you won't be seeing any buying for the purposes of lending out any stock. So regardless, add this one to your watch list. Moving on to the next one, ticker is STI, sitting at 21.17. Over the last 1 year, up 18.2, but over the last 1 month, it is up 358%. So definitely this one is having some pretty good traction. This is what they do. So electrical components and equipment, 28 employees, based out of good old Texas, Dallas, Texas. And so 32.09% of the free floats being shorted, works to be 301,000 shares overall are being shorted. This is exactly what the market loves to squeeze, is heavily shorted, low float. Short score is 80.47, and then through, or I guess the cost to borrow is 447. So that's fairly high. Again, that's an annual rate, not a daily rate, but we are sitting at all-time high short interest numbers. So going into this upcoming week, could see a little bit of a pinch, plus there's only 8,000 shares available to be shorted. So most likely you could be seeing some buying going into this upcoming week as the cost of borrow is fairly high. So might be kind of drawing a lot of good attention from a lot of the big players. And then moving on to the last stock, ticker is FLNC. So sitting at 18.33. Over the last 1 year, down 14.29%. So not doing all that great, but over the last 1 month, up 141%. So doing fairly good recently. Market cap is 3.34 billion. I do believe that's one of the highest ones that I did bring up aside from QS, but this is what they do on a side note. So right here, electrical components and equipment, 15 or about 1,600 employees based out of the States, but 35.7% of the free floats being shorted, works out to be 22.8 million shares overall being shorted. Cost to borrow average is 1.74, so kind of on the low end, but DTC being 3.79 days definitely does signal that shorts are very overextended with this stock. Short score 71.7. We are also going into this upcoming week with all-time high short interest numbers. Not really sure why they are doubling down. It looks like they are very reactive to the stock price. All of a sudden, though, it looks like they were kind of dormant up until pretty much January. That's where they started to get a little bit more active, but it looks like it went from about 21% short interest to a high of 52.5. So crazy stuff. Then through IBKR, there's about 1.7 million shares, and cost to borrow is kind of on the low end. So you might not be seeing all that much in institutional transactions just for the purposes of lending out stock. But regardless, add all these stocks to your watch list. Things could get very hot and heavy for some of them. So definitely let me know your viewpoint. And if you do currently own any of them, give yourself a shout out in the comments below. Hopefully everyone's having an amazing weekend thus far. And then one final thing, pop over to my Patreon if you're looking for some solid buy signals on stocks, options, crypto. Put out daily day trades, numerous swing trades. Worthwhile too. Pop over there and check that out. With all that said, appreciate all of you watching.